This is F.D.Recovery, where we interview addicts and alcoholics.
Our aim is that through this podcast, we might help you on your journey of recovery.
Thank you for listening. All right, this is F.D.Recovery. My name is Frank. I am an addict, and I got two of my co-hosts. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Dave Mullen.
I'm Eric, and I'm an addict.
And today we have Nate joining us, along with us. This is going to be a little different. It's less of an interview, more of a discussion. So we decided to come and talk about stuff in recovery, everything from controversial to spiritual. And we have a fire extinguisher right next to Nathan in case we have to put him out after all the roasting we're going to be doing to him.
Absolutely, bro. It's nice to know you guys care enough, you know. By the way, my name's Nathan. I'm an addict.
We weren't asking.
All right. So, I mean, a couple of us have some notes here and stuff like that. I just have my notes that I've written 2 seconds ago, but...
It's a short thought process, Frank. We get it. It's okay. We all know you, bro.
Yeah, exactly. So, who wants to crack this motherfucker off with some of their genius?
I will. So some people may not have heard the previous podcast. So let's go. You introduce yourself as Nathan, an addict. Tell us a quick rundown of you.
Again, I'm Nathan, and I'm an addict.
We already heard that.
Right.
Yeah, we heard that.
Right. Come on, man. My clean date is October 24th, 2018. I'm originally from Sacramento. I came up here almost 6 years ago to go to rehab, and I never went back to Sac. And I started my life over here, and that's where I met all these fools. So, I didn't know what I was walking into today, but I got a pretty good heads up when they said it was 3-on-1. I'm like, well, it's not fair, guys, because you're going to need a lot more than 3, right? So let's just get this cracking.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. Yeah, that's right. Shots freaking fired, yeah.
So, we wanted, the main thing was, as you kept coming into my work saying, we had great chemistry, right, on your podcast, and I agreed with that. And it led to maybe a roundtable discussion, we called it. And most of it was on your end. You wanted to talk about some controversial issues, and I think that's a good thing to bring up because we got some people here with a decent amount of clean time. What are we, 30 years old between all of us, or 40 years old? Huh? We're almost an adult. And if any of you guys want to throw something on the table, and then we can let this rocket take off.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. So again, my name's Nathan. I'm an addict, and
We know.
Right.
No. It's enough of that.
I'm glad we have an opportunity to have this roundtable, and Frank is correct. I go into his store every morning, so it's not like I just come in all of a sudden. Right? Every morning I'm in his fucking store, so it's not like I just had this freaking bright light bulb and decided to come in and visit him. I have to. I got to get gas. I traveled to Sac, but that's beside the point. I know in my recovery, especially this time, when I came up to rehab, severely addicted to opiates. One of the things that I believe and that keeps an opiate addict from even thinking about recovery, and this might sound small, but it's the truth. It's the realization they're going to get really sick. Now normal people, when they get sick, they just ride it out. But people that have been taking opiates for quite a long time have this fear of getting sick. As a matter of fact, they will actually put their life on the line with things like fentanyl and the things that are out there in the street that will kill them before they make that choice to actually go ahead and go through that process of getting sick. Mm-hmm. There's a medication out. It's called Suboxone. And it's still really controversial, and it's something that I like to talk about because there seems to be a stigma behind it. And depending on what 12-step group you're part of, and not even that, what part of a group inside that group you're part of, you get different sets of opinions. So I wanted to bring that up. You know, I said this when I was in rehab. I said someone's going to write a book one day. It's going to be called Suboxone, Friend or Foe. You know, and I think that the jury's still out on it, and I'd like to get your guys' opinion because I've seen both sides of it. Personally, myself, I was on Suboxone when I came up. I went on Suboxone for 6 months while I was in rehab. Matter of fact, you want to know something funny? Is the other rehabs that were possibly going to take me in. I wasn't going to go into rehab unless I knew I was going to get Suboxone. Never taken it before, but I just knew it was going to help. Because that's one of the things I heard. Now that it was a drug that actually, it was better than methadone, and
I loved methadone.
Yeah, right. I mean, because right? I know it. And we'll talk about there's some big differences between methadone and Suboxone, and I think that those are things that we should hit on. But I did find a rehab. There was a rehab here in Grass Valley, and they did have the MAP program, which is medically assisted treatment. So that's one of the reasons I really didn't have a choice. They brought me up here from SAC, so it's like, but I was glad they had this. So it worked for me. It was part of my toolbox. I was on it for 6 months. While I was on it, it kept the unbelievable withdrawals and cravings to where I could actually deal with it and get some kind of a foundation underneath me, a program. I do want to say that I have seen many people on it that are overprescribed. And they look just as fucking high as they did before they started taking the Suboxone. I mean, to be honest with you, you know.
That's true.
So it's something I want to get your guys' opinion on too.
I love to jump into the controversial.
Yeah,
because I think the book should probably be called Doctor, Friend or Foe.
Yes, it could be. Yes,
because like Suboxone has a ton of benefits, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how is it monitored? Is it really meant for people to be on for years?
100%, Eric.
Like,
talk to me, brother. Preach it, brother.
I've worked with a lot of guys in the programs, and I watch them turn into zombies. I watch guys come out of custody with substantial clean time and immediately get put on Suboxone and turn into a zombie, and down the road fall off, die, like multiple instances. Not just one, like
it kept the ticket going almost.
Yeah.
And you know, so Suboxone was meant as to be an opioid antagonistic, right? It was for opioids, but now we see it's being prescribed to people of meth, alcohol. I've seen that too, Eric, at the recovery houses. It's like they go in there for meth and they give them Suboxone. So
now they're addicted to opiates.
Now they're addicted, right?
Yeah, because once they get off that, I've seen a couple guys, and then they start using opiates. You know what I mean? So, because the same kind of kick when you're on Suboxone, you still get that same type of kick, especially if you're using a good amount and you run out. Because I've experienced a little bit of Suboxone myself. I took it just to get high off of, which you take enough of it, it does get you high. And my older sister, she ended up taking it enough where she got chemically dependent on it, and she was never really an opiate addict.
Remember Randall?
Yeah,
your brother too. Randall. I remember that situation with Randall, and that's we got him hooked up with Katie, thank God. But at that time, he needed that, right? That helped to get him stable. And Randall is Frank's younger brother, who we just all love and adore, and he's doing great, and he's off Suboxone now.
Yep.
He's living the dream, and that's what I think what the intentions are. But Eric, you brought up a very good point. That there's a lot of time there's no end game,
right?
And so it's damage control. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Customer saved is a customer lost.
Right. Yeah, and so let me tell you something. The Suboxone was actually the Purdue, the actual manufacturers of Oxycontin actually had their own formula for Suboxone. So they're burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
They're going to get you addicted. Then they're going to give you something that's going to help you get unaddicted, right? Which is absolutely, that's like the worst sin that could be committed. So anyway, that's something I wanted to talk about.
So I think with anything though, you have success cases and then you have failures. So I've seen a lot of positive, right? I've seen it, like my brother was one of them. He had a hard time kicking it though. He tried to do it on his own, and for the most part he did do it on his own, but there was sleepless nights where he was kicking in Jones's just like he was high on heroin, almost like the kick of the heroin, I should say. And, you know, I had to take him to work with me a couple mornings, you know, because I go in really early because he just is crawling in his skin, you know, and I brought him with me and had him putting product on the shelf, you know, just to kind of keep his mind off of it. So I've seen the ugly side, but in the end, you know, we're not, I just want to remind the listeners, we're not affiliated to any group as far as NAAA. We are members of them, but this podcast is not, so we can say whatever the fuck we want.
Right. We're not doctors either.
Yeah, we're not. So
none of us have a degree. You know, some of us have felonies, no degrees, lots of felonies, but yeah.
So don't listen to us for any medical advice. This is purely just recovery talking and opinions. Obviously, at least on my end, I've seen a lot of success and some failures, right? I can't get into too much of what doctors and that whole scam, because that's always been a scam in somewhat. I mean, there's a lot of good though. That there's a good with bad with that whole situation, but some of the struggles I've seen, right, it helps perpetuate and keep that bill running, especially because the only way I've learned for this drug crisis is just complete abstinence. That's the only thing that's worked for me. I've tried a bunch of different routes, Klonopin, weed. I've tried every single. I was on methadone for years, so I know the opiate kick. It's vicious. But the way I see it in my recovery, I can't put anything in my body. That's just the way it goes, at least for me, right? I was addicted to opiates. I still never went on Suboxone. For me, the way my reality seen it, and I was just as much as an addict. I shot heroin. I shot meth. My body was just as chemically dependent on it than anybody other addicts out there. But the way I saw it was, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna quit. I'm not gonna prolong this. And yeah, there's a process of getting in detox, and they have to give you what they have to give you for the first few days. But that's all that was what I did every time, is just get the fuck off of it. I never decided, at least this time around or any other time. Every other time I was trying to drug seek, and then that's when I would be on like methadone and different things like that. And I had to realize that over time, it's like a peeling of the onion, right? Mm-hmm. Not to say that everybody is on Suboxone, wants to get high, but we are dope fiends and drug addicts, so there is an element to that. So to say that's completely out of the question is far-fetched, right? So there is a level of your addiction and chemical dependency that keeps you in that cycle, and I think it keeps the bill running. When you could have just got off of everything and just try to start this whole sober path, you're kind of keeping the bill going, right? And then people are like, well, I'm clean and sober. I'm like, well, the way he did it, he was clean and sober, but I've seen people on it where they weren't clean and sober. They were nodding out just as like good nods. I'm like, and I was feeling envious on how good they were nodding out.
Yeah, and you speak truth, Frank. It's really, like I said, that's why it's really a controversial issue.
Yeah.
But I'll say from my own experience, so what you're doing basically, this is what you're basically doing with Suboxone. You're putting off the withdrawal process.
Yeah, exactly.
Until you have tools, right? Until you've established some kind of tools, because it's not. So let me tell you what happened with me. So I was taking the strip form. You put it under your tongue. I like to put things in my mouth. It's just
we heard.
Right? So I'm just being honest. Yeah. So I was taking, and there's a story behind this. So with this, I was taking
behind the mouth thing.
Right? Or? No, that's for another podcast.
Okay.
So this, I first started off taking the tablets. Okay. Well, they were giving me like 3.5 a day. Problem with a pill addict is it took me fucking forever to decide which part of that half I was going to take. Which part was bigger. I could take, I'm dead, this is the truth, right? And it was a mental thing. It's like, and you're going to take the other half the next day, right? But so, and I noticed that. I noticed that was something that, and it came in a pill bottle, which was something else that was really triggering for me, okay? It came in the same, and it came from a pharmacy, So anyway, I transferred to the strips because they had actually half doses in the strips. And, I let my sponsor know, Dave, what I was, that I was on Suboxone. And he never pressured me but I continued to do meetings. I continued to read the literature. I continued to be a part of, and I knew that this is what changed. One day I was tired, and I drive to Sacramento a lot, right? Suboxone has this little side effect where it gives you a little charge, maybe a little boost, right? And one morning I was really tired. I drive to Sac. I'm like, well, if I take my Suboxone dose now, it'll give me a little to get to Sacramento. And I knew right then and there it was time to stop. Because then I related it to something completely different outside. But you see what I'm saying in my mind? So what I did was there's also a shot that you can get. Okay, it's a 30-day shot. And there was one other person in the program that got the shot that actually, I'd like to say I was the first. I wasn't. She's like the first one here in Grass Valley. A good friend of ours.
No names.
No, right. Good friend of ours. That she got the shot, and she was.
I need to know her social security.
Yeah, we all know her and we all love her. But she was the first one, and I said, you know what? If she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And so I set up to get the shot, right? And one of the ways I knew that I was ready is they never asked for the other pills that I still have when they gave me the shot. I gave them to them. And I went into that room, and I was full of tears. And one of the counselors there, a good friend of mine, he went in there and held my hand while they gave me the shot. Because this was a big deal for me. I knew it was going to hurt. But literally, no, I was scared because I was making a decision.
Oh, my hand.
Right. I was making the decision to stop this, to get off this train after 25 years.
So thank God you guys took these pills. I was just about to boof them.
Yeah, right. No, actually, see, because normally I would take the shot, someone would take the shot and you go, well, if this doesn't work, I've still got all this medication, right? No, it was like either I was going to go all in or all out. And so I got the shot for 30 days, never went back and got another one, And the weird thing about Suboxone, I didn't start having withdrawals until like 8 months after the first shot. Yeah. That's when it's such a weird medication. And when I say withdrawals, I don't want to scare anyone because it's just, look, it's restless legs, it's, a little bit of a headache. The medicine causes a headache, but we're not talking about diarrhea and freaking vomiting and sweating. And it's more of a mental thing, right? And so, I was still testing positive for Suboxone in my system 1 year after I quit taking it. What's that all about? It's just really, really weird how this stuff, it was, but like I said, some of the things that are positive about it is it has a ceiling height. That means after so many milligrams, you can't keep taking it and get more high. Mm-hmm. The other thing that's unlike methadone, you can't overdose on it, right? There was a 2-year-old the other day that died from taking a fentanyl pill they found in the ground. Now that's different.
Oh my God.
Right? Yeah, it was it was terrible. It was terrible. But you can't, and the other thing is you cannot. What it does is it sticks to your opioid receptors so tight that you can't get high on opiates if you try. I remember a dude went out and said, damn, dude, he was taking Suboxone, right? And he spent $80 on heroin. He was all pissed when he came back because it was for nothing,
one of my buddies told, I don't know if this is true or not, it throws you an instant withdrawals.
Yes, terrible withdrawals. Yes, precipitated withdrawal. And it's that. So it's got it does have its advantages in that part of it. And with the shot, the last thing I'll say with the shot, a lot of times I've seen people take the pills and take the strips, and what happens is they decide they want to get high, so they just quit taking it. Yeah. Right? With the shot, it's in your system for 30 days.
I think
so. It gives you a chance to actually think about, even you get that wild hair up your ass, you got 30 days where you can't get high anyway. So hopefully in that amount of time, sometimes we have to hold on to our ass, right?
So I just came across this. The mainstay of a contemporary treatment is the second of the two agonists. Suboxone, from 2004 to 2011, use of it increased 2,318%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Compared to methadone's 37%.
Yeah.
So, as you're talking about the manufacturer,
mm-hmm.
Get you coming and going, right? They're making a lot of money.
Absolutely.
So it's, as you know, I'm not really a big fan of it, but I am one that agrees that it should be used as it was designed to be used. which is short-term use. Treatment centers are making too much money. When you get 2,300% of increase, someone's making money.
Absolutely.
So follow the money trail, right?
It's a little scheme.
That's what it comes down to, is how they're making money, right? And at the expense of human lives. At the expense of human lives.
Right.
So when talking with the director of a treatment center, asked me why I was disgruntled with them.
That's a good word, Dave. Disgruntled. I like that.
Right?
I like that. Yeah.
And I said, well, it saddens me to see that, when someone's done with 30 days of treatment, you got them strung out on Suboxone, and you kick them out, and they got nowhere to go. They got no prescription. They got, they're barely on their feet. Walking on their feet is what I mean. They have no life. They have no place to go. And yet they're standing on the street corner with their bags after getting kicked out of treatment and got nothing better to do but to try to get well. So they go right back to the, their opiate of choice.
Absolutely.
And so you had mentioned about the different purposes that they're using it for opioids and for alcohol and for meth and even for pain.
Right.
They're using it just for pain.
Right.
It's a pain reliever. So that's not what it was designed for.
No, you're right.
Right. It was to help curb the opiate.
Absolutely. You made, you know what, Dave, you made a good point with, so I got in on the MAP program. They paid for everything, okay? Well, that program, believe it or not, is not, we have an issue up here in Grass Valley with possibly losing the MAP program. So what happens to these thousands of people that are on Suboxone? Just what you said, Dave. They're going to lose access to that, and they're going to go right back in whatever life they have built behind this without having those coping mechanisms and tools in their recovery toolbox. They're going to go back and they're going to lose it all again.
Yeah, there's a high chance of it.
Yeah.
And it's just like when the dope dealer gets arrested. You know what I mean?
Damn it. Right?
They pull that, where you're just going to go find it somewhere else.
He's got one job to do. That's provide dope, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Once he gets busted, you're gonna. Yeah. So what you're gonna do is you'll figure out how to find it somewhere else, and then that addict behavior is off and running.
Yeah.
And that's why I said it keeps the bill going, right? You avoid it just to do the withdrawals. It's people are using it for their. The mismanagement of it is the biggest issue, right?
Yeah, and you think about it, the dope fiend, that starts taking Suboxone. A lot of times they're trading their Suboxone for a bag of dope.
Oh, yeah. There was people selling Suboxone when I was in rehab.
Yeah.
The guy never took it, right? And one day he had he must have had 100 strips. And that just hit wrong. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it was a hustle.
I don't know why it surprised me. But it was
my older brother used to do that. He used to get a script of Suboxone and he'd sell it and he'd go get some heroin.
Yeah, not a very controlled substance, is it?
No.
So understanding what I've learned about addiction and myself over the years, the three components, right? The physical compulsion, mental obsession, and spiritual malady. I'm the guy that had to get arrested to get clean. Right? I've never been able to go right into rehab or get clean on the street.
Self-appointed.
Me too.
I had to get arrested, right? That physical compulsion had to be gone before I could address anything else. And that took months in jail. Yeah. So if I were to be on Suboxone, I would never be able to address the mental and spiritual components of that because I'd still be stuck in the physical. Not that it can't be done, but for me personally, no chance.
There's a buffer,
There's I would not be able to go in on my mental and spiritual stuff.
You can't feel that ugliness. I think is important in recovery is to feel that nasty feeling that, obviously I don't want everybody going around feeling like shit, but unfortunately when you're coming into rehab and you have zero recovery and you're high as hell on dope, the reality is you got a whole bunch of unfinished business within yourself that hasn't been figured out. And if you're going to put something in that way, there's this feeling you have to feel like shit, dude, because nothing's gonna change, right? If you just feel fucking great and nodding off on Suboxone, you'd be like, yeah. It's just it's false.
Sign me
it's
up
that
for
false
another
feeling.
30 days.
Right. So I guess one of the things that we should.
not so bad.
One of the things that I should say is I never did feel not like shit. I still felt like shit. And Eric, you bring up a good point. And from the other side of it, I want to say also that being able to do, you're right, the physical part of it, look, the opiates are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So any kind of edge that we can get, I believe, that can be gotten to give these guys a better chance at getting in contact with that spiritual side, right? Because it's when you're sitting there and you're just the opiate sickness is just to be able to it's for me. I was until I was able to get stabilized physically, I really wasn't. And then the spiritual journey came along, right? And even while I was taking the Suboxone, the one thing I can say about it, right, that I did not like and I noticed about it is it would not allow me to feel good things or bad things. So if it means, what I'm saying is, if I was to go to, and we brought this up at the MAT meeting, it was really neat because during the MAT meetings, the doctors, this was pretty new up here. And Dr. Kellerman would actually sit and listen to what we had to say and how we were feeling. And one of the things I said was, if I go to a funeral or I go to a wedding, I feel the same at both. I cannot. And I missed that being able to come in touch with, like you're saying, my true feelings, right? And that's my journey. That was my journey. And I know that other people had related to that too, because they shared the same thing. It kind of just takes, but I think that because there are those that can benefit from it, I don't think it's something that we should.
I think it's what Eric said. At least there's multiple facets to it, but I really resonated with Eric said, that physical. That's all it's doing. Right? Because in order to at least feel that spiritual, your physical has to come alive. Because for me, when I was using, it was all physical. Just shoot a bunch of drugs, get my mind blotted out, get that fucking warm feeling, everything. And what it did, it put me in ether, like I was in the ether. You know what I mean? That's the place I would always go for, is just shoot a bunch of drugs, mix heroin with crank, and it put me in that. Ooh, that zombie place where I'm just like, where I'm feeling good, right? So I didn't have to think about that stuff from my past or in my brain, And I think the big part of that is when it's still numbing that factor, right? I can't feel the things going on inside me naturally from my environment, like person coming up, meeting them, and really feeling everything from that interaction.
You mean like when you piss me off and I got to punch you in the face at work in the morning?
Yeah,
you couldn't feel that, right? That one too.
Well, I couldn't feel your punch.
So, if I can just say one more thing, one of the things
and then you cut off,
right, and then they're going to cut me off. So, listen, this is one of the things that all as an opiate. Before I got into recovery, I used to. This was my one fear. Okay, it's a numbers game when you're on opiates. It's like, you got to always make sure you got them. When's the next time we're going to fill? What family member can die today? If I can tell the doctor I need an early refill. I was so scared that someone in my life was going to die. And I wasn't going to be able to go to the service because I needed my prescription. And that's heavy, And I thought the same thing with Suboxone, because it was still the doctors, it was the refill dates. Well, what if someone dies and it's out of town, right? And you don't have enough Suboxone to carry you through.
That ball and chain,
right? Yes. So right in that moment, but that's one of the things I realized, that I how could I live with myself?
So at what point do you think that treatment centers or doctors prescribing Suboxone are willing to see change? At what time do you see? Do you feel like you have the desire to change? Not the way you feel, but to change your life.
Right.
Okay. Because let's face it, Suboxone changes the way you feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's postponing that kick.
Yes.
Right. So there's like Eric mentioned, the mental, the physical, and the spiritual, right? And there's something missing in life. Why do I feel I have to use? That's the question I got to ask myself, right? And at what point do I realize that this void cannot be filled by Suboxone, by heroin, pills, by meth, or by any other thing? It's the big book says we were not only mentally and physically ill, we were spiritually sick. But when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. Right? So I always thought that was backwards. But then again, I was relying on my own thinking.
And you were backwards.
Oh, I was backwards.
Still, no worries. Still.
So the question is, at what point do you stop substituting one drug for another?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, Dave. And I think, and what I'm seeing now, so I was just talking about the MAT group we have with Kellerman, right? We would all be part of this, and there was so much more attention paid to the end game. They were their recommendation was stay on, the statistics say, if you're on Suboxone for 2 years, you have a better chance of not relapsing than if you weren't. Well,
it wasn't out for 2 years.
What's that?
It wasn't even out for 2 years.
Right. So this is one of the things that. So it will, with the Suboxone, people do have the ability to go to work, provide for their families. If it's carefully maintained by a prescribing doctor. Now here's the problem. You don't have that anymore. You can't send 50 people into a doctor's office to see one doctor, and they each get 30 seconds to talk to them about what their recovery program's like and what's going on.
Hey, I mastered that.
Right.
That was good. Dude.
Right. I'm saying that what happens is there's too much reliance on the medication and not enough on program.
What Dave just said, has there ever been, people have to come to that realization about substituting one drug for another, and they're not going to their doctor and having their doctor tell them, okay, so you're substituting one drug for another and you need to address the wreckage of your life.
Yeah, the doctor's not going to tell you that.
There's never been a doctor,
doctor's not going to tell you that. Yeah.
So your average person is going to the doctor with trust and getting told, here, take this will make it all better. And I'll go back to what I opened up with, right? Is the doctor a friend or foe? Because it could be as simple as proper administration and using that as something to get you through the initial physical part of it and then wean off it.
I think,
like it was intended.
Right. I think the shot is a perfect way to do that, because what happens when it gives you the shot, when you take the shot, it releases a smaller amount than the dosage, but constantly. So the actual withdrawal period is so much different. Like I said, I didn't start feeling until 8 months after, right? But it's not such a heavy, and for a lot of people, that's what's going to make the difference. And we're talking about people's lives here, right?
And,
in the end game.
Not to talk shit about clinical treatment, but how many treatment facilities actually get you to address the spiritual component? And or do they sit there and tell you how shitty your chances are of making only 2% of you are going to stay clean? And
here's all about
here's a book on denial.
Hey, goodness, worry about your cognitive function. Let's get you. Dope fiends have been shooting up for the last 30 days of your life. Let's get you talking about the cerebral. You know what I mean?
Well, let's face it. Dope fiends go to the doctor. How many of them are honest with the doctor?
I was never.
You wonder why the doctors don't trust us anyways?
Right.
Here, take this, get out of my office. Okay.
Oh, I was prescribed them knowing that, I was getting 180 Roxys a month and then 90 morphine, and then I was getting 90 diazepam on top of that. I was that patient where it's just like, well, because I've been taking it for so long, no one wanted to take the risk of not giving it to me. What the hell's going to happen to them then, right? But no, this you brought up a good point about rehab centers too. None of them want to officially associate with being part of a 12-step program because none of that is offered inside the rehab itself.
Well, that's also because of 12 steps too, because we don't want to be, the 12-step itself, the program of AA doesn't associate with outside entities. So I think that also is a huge component too, because even if the rehab wanted to, AA and NA, the only thing they do is H&I for good reason, because they don't need that outside pressure. The outside entities are huge. So that's also the main reason why, right? Because obviously it does work, but AA and NA has drawn that line. Said, well, we're not you guys. Right. So I think that's kind of that natural occurrence too. I don't think that, what you guys are saying is true, but it's also NA and AA that draw that hard line because they have to. You know what I mean?
I'll reel back from talking shit about treatment facilities for a second because no, clinical treatment.
No, please do.
Clinical treatment does have its place. However,
absolutely,
it has a X amount of days and a completion certificate. And as soon as that's done, your treatment's done.
Right.
As opposed to a program of recovery, which extends for the rest of your life. So if you're basing the rest of your life just on a 30, 60, or 90-day completion certificate, chances are you're fucked.
Right.
In my experience.
No, right? It's truth, yeah.
So I was lucky enough in my times in clinical treatment where I had people teaching me, hey, come to these meetings. Here's this book. Here's a sponsor. Do this stuff. Here's these suggestions. Do this because you're going to get that completion certificate, and then all the world's going to be back on your shoulders. So, clinical treatment does have its place.
And that's why I was super fortunate when I was in treatment that some of the addicts that were clean and sober working there was pushing me towards those 12 steps because they knew better, right? And it's one of those things, right? They got to give you the curriculum that they get, that's bought and paid for by all the funding that they get, right? So they have to push that. They have to follow these guidelines. So they do that, but most of the people with me was just like, hey, you want to get a meeting? Go hit a meeting. And my counselor was really like, this is what's going to save your ass after you get out of here. This is good for the reboot mode and get you off the dope, but that is what's going to, when you're leaving here, that continued work. So it does have its place, right? Because they're different things we're talking about, they're not the same, right? Rehab's not the same as recovery. I don't think it is. That wasn't my experience. It's your introduction in some cases. Not everybody that's clean and sober went through rehab. There's a lot of people that never went through rehab. That's just a lot of the presumed, oh, you went to rehab? No, I went to NA or AA. That kept me clean. And that wasn't my route or your route or some of other routes. But like you said, it was jail a lot for you. So it wasn't always rehab for all of us. So it's not that's not recovery. It's just a place. It's like a safe haven.
It's
like,
neutral.
Yeah.
Like I said,
don't get me wrong, right? No matter how much time I was down, I still went door to door from jail to treatment.
Right.
The truth comes out.
And here's the thing. Like Frank, what you're saying is that, believe it or not, even with things like Suboxone and the new medications that are coming out, the percentage of people that stay clean and sober is the same as it was 20 years ago before these things came out. Believe it or not. So they, you got all these commercials that
I do know we're killing it here in Nevada County, though. The
percentage of death is a lot higher.
Well, it's fentanyl's changed that.
Right.
But I mean, the percentage of people that come out of rehab and stay sober for a year, it hasn't changed in 20 years.
I don't know. I'm not a statistical genius.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
I've done a lot of H&I through the years. Okay, and I've done a little bit of studying in program of recovery. Dr. Silkworth back in the 20s and 30s treated over 40,000 clients for drug and alcohol addiction with about a 2% success rate. That's a lot of people he treated with a 2% success rate. It's always been my question is whether those 2% were real alcoholics or addicts. I don't know.
Yeah, it could have just been weekend warriors.
So
fucking blew my mind.
Now, being, doing a lot of H&I in both treatment centers and as well as the jail. I get to see, and what we do with Project Heart, I get to see who grasps onto this thing, right? And how many people go through treatment? I'd say, what, 1 out of 20 are gonna stay clean? For how long?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If they stay clean for a year, it's mind-blowing.
Right.
Okay, so when I got my welcome chip, I remember at Narcotics Anonymous, there was 12, 14 of us got our 24-hour chips. 30-day chip, there was, I don't know, about 8 of us. 60-day chip, there was probably 6 of us, and it dwindled down.
Yeah.
And by the time it got down to a year, there were 2 of us. And then there was 18 months, the same 2. And 2 years, I was the only one that got it, right? And I've watched this pattern over and over again in treatment centers. Talking a lot about Suboxone today, but people nodding out in classes, in H&I meetings, in treatment. They can't hear the message, okay? Because they're so wrapped up here. Their mind is still being fed a substance, okay? In fear of having to kick, right? So, what I was talking about earlier, that void that we're trying to fill, right? We all have it. We all have it. What are we trying to escape from?
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't matter if it's Suboxone, if it's or just going to take a hit off a joint. So many people just I'm just going to smoke pot when they get out.
I'm California sober.
Yeah, California sober. Exactly. And how many people just non-alcoholic beer, right? I got a guy that in a program, a friend of mine that started with non-alcoholic beer. Next thing you know is he's drunk, right? Ended up in jail. He's in the highest level of probation in adult drug court. What's the void? Why do we feel that we have to fill that void with something outside of a power greater than ourselves?
Yeah. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because one of my topics was, lo and behold, non-alcoholic beer.
It could be spice. It could be all these kratom. It could be all these things that are available to us. Okay, but
Send it.
Dude, I got so strung out on kratom, like bad.
I know a few people that are pretty strung out on kratom.
Dude, it was bad.
So I've never tried it. But I've heard really, really, really bad things about it.
I'm a gym rat, right? And I got friends in recovery that are just fucked off on steroids.
Oh,
I'm
dude,
like, what are you doing? Like,
that's filling the void.
right.
What's missing?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man, I seen someone that was up at rehab with his go on a roid rage. Oh man, it was ridiculous, dude. Do you remember
that fridge?
Yeah,
that poor fridge.
Yeah, this guy literally was just off his rocker, and then he's like fucking as big as like the Jolly Green Giant, and he's flipping out. And yeah, serious. That's no joke.
I believe that when they go off on the replacement things, that's the spiritual component of it.
Yeah.
For me, anyways. Like when I'm right with my God, things kind of fall into place. I'm not pursuing unnecessary stuff to fill stuff. The void's still there, and the more I seek my God, the less I even think about other stuff.
How often do we see people that try to stay clean and sober by just going to the gym, just doing physically, or just going to church, or just going, all these things? Like you hit the nail on the head.
Like for me in the gym, if I'm not, a big part of my life now is putting God first. If I don't do that, the gym's horrible because then I'm totally in ego.
Right.
And that's one step away from any of the bad stuff, right? The ego creeps in first, and then who knows what comes after that. So like my gym thing is more of a mental health thing for me.
It's
like
totally mental health.
So it's not.
I'm surprised more people don't do it because of how much it affects your brain in such a positive way. It really baffles me. But obviously, It's not my place to tell people what to do and what not to do. But oh my God, because I had a choice when I was in early recovery because I was on depression pills and a bunch of crap that they were giving me, and against doctor's orders, I stopped it all in one night. I'm like, I'm okay. I'm done. I love to say that I'm savage and I can do it. It was tough. It was really tough. I would find myself in a lot of altercations, due to just stopping that abruptly. So I had to come to a point in my recovery where I had to make a choice. I'm like, okay, so I do have all these mental health issues. I have intense anxiety. I have a lot of paranoia going on, bordering on schizophrenic, right? And I had to make a choice. So, okay.
We have a list of quite a few.
Yeah, right, Frank. We were just talking about that.
I'm glad those are the good things for him, That's like the positives in his life. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So, long story short, what happens is I had to make a choice. Okay, so can I adopt these behaviors and modifications that will take the place as, some of these mental health stuff I was on, right? And the gym was a big part of that. And I'm not going to say it was just the gym. No, the gym really, really helped, but along with a lot of the work really helped. So the reality is I had a chemical imbalance, right? I was putting a bunch of drugs in me and all that. And by the time it was done, my brain was already broken before I started. And then after that, it was completely fried.
We know.
It was toasted. So,
I think also there's a point, and Dave would know where this is at. It tells us in the big book, too, of Alcoholics Anonymous, that we are not doctors. That there are specific situations where people that do suffer from. Look, I take Zoloft. I don't feel it, but people around me, if I don't take it, they realize they can tell me, and I don't have a problem taking it. It doesn't make me feel I don't get any high off it. Yeah. But so, I don't want to just automatically say that any kind of medication, because some of it is, I have a wife that suffers from mental health issues, and I've seen her struggle so much, and she needs certain medications, right? But it's, there's a fine line there, man.
Well, I guess my approach to it was purely personal. I obviously don't say that by saying, hey, everybody get off your meds now. No, that's not, that's not what I'm saying is, for me, at least, my personal journey was just like, for me, I was like, dude, I don't want to be dependent on anything. Mm-hmm. I want to be dependent on myself, my higher power, and that's it. Those are those things. That's where I made that choice. And in the beginning, there was a lot of ego. It was a lot of ego. And it was, at that time, it was mostly, I just want to do it by myself, get it done but eventually that changed into, okay, now there's a higher power involved. Now my sponsor, all these things that in my support group, there's all these things that are involved, right? But in the beginning, it was really just an ego thing. But also I didn't want to be dependent on anything. I just want to take vitamins when I wake up. Mm-hmm. That's it. And because I found myself in this never ending pill cycle, and that's just where I was. I don't want to, and to this day, whenever my mental health pops up, I know that I need to address stuff in my routine life, meaning my spirituality, meaning did I sleep enough, did I eat enough, whatever I'm doing, did I drink too much caffeine, how am I showing up in my relationship, am I being bitter, all these things I start needing to have addressed. And it's honestly just the sleep thing, that's what really fucks me up the most.
Dave, what do you think? Do you take any kind of antidepressants?
I don't take anything.
Okay. What do you think about people that have to take antidepressants?
I'm not opposed to it. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
I also have seen people who have had to take them in the beginning, mm-hmm. or have had to take them for years. When they get clean and truly get involved in doing something different in their lives, that they find they don't need them anymore. Mm-hmm. Not all of them. Some just have, something not connecting in their brain, and it's not their fault.
Right.
They need help, and that's the thing is the guilt trip that we put ourselves through as human beings. Man, I'm not up to someone else's par. Right. We're so busy trying to look good for someone else rather than feeling good for ourselves.
Yeah, that's important.
And I totally just believe in the deep inner work and what's going to make me complete. I can't make myself complete.
Mm-hmm.
See, I know how to destroy myself. I can't be the one trying to solve my own problems. I need help, right? But I can tell you this, that not being prescribed, I haven't been to a doctor in quite some time. I don't need anything, I got aches and pains. I'm almost 65 years old. Big deal. I'm a human being. I beat myself up.
Man.
You look really
Yes,
good.
I'm
You
old.
look-
Damn, I thought you were only 50, bro.
Right.
Smoking hot.
Yeah.
So as far as people that have to go to the doctor, like yourself, it's okay.
Yeah.
Is it making your life unmanageable? No. Okay. There are people that can drink like a gentleman.
I
Right?
can't.
I guarantee I have this thing in me. It's called the disease of alcoholism, that I know if I have one beer, I'm going to want another. I am 100% positive. Okay.
We know.
So, I'm not even going to try to fool myself by taking a hit off a joint, by having a beer, by having a non-alcoholic beer, but not, they got non-alcoholic wines too, man. I'd love to have a glass of wine with a nice, plate of pasta sometime. I can't do it, I can't do it because I've been armed with the facts about myself and my disease. Okay? So, who am I to judge what someone else's journey is, right? What I can say is if I'm trying to change the way I feel because I think I deserve this or I deserve that, things aren't going my way or I had a rough day, I think I'll do this. I know for me, it's not going to work for me. I will break out in handcuffs. That's my experience. Since I was 15 years old.
And not in a good way.
No, there's no benefit of it. As I can tell you, treatment centers didn't work for me. Okay, jail didn't work for me. All the programs they tried to send me through didn't work for me. Okay, it wasn't until I had the desire for change, and I had to have that gift of desperation. Okay, if I wasn't so fed up with myself and so sick and tired of living in my own skin, I would never have found that gift of desperation. Right? And that's what it took for this guy. Right? So, all the rest of it is, I think, throughout my using drinking career, a lot of the stuff that I was going through, I'd sit and talk to you about it. I talk to you about it. I talk to you about it. I talk to everyone about it. And at what point is my life creating drama in everyone else's life? Okay, I know, like people talk about, I hate drama. Well, guess who the biggest drama queen is? The one that says that they don't like drama.
Yeah.
Always the ones that bring it into people's lives, right? So the same thing with, this addicted personality. I mean, I know I've got it. And I also know that there's tools to put it to rest. Okay? So when I apply those tools, doesn't mean I do all the time, but when I do, it works. I'm not bringing my problems to you. If there's something I need to talk about, I got a sponsor, I got a pen, I got paper, I do what it takes. And I never forget where I came from. Because I remember that gift of desperation. I wanted something bad enough. I wanted change bad enough in my life that I was willing to do what it took. But until I got to that point, guess what? It's just drama.
Just drama.
It's just drama.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that, like that when I mentioned that about the meds, it's like that's where I guess the way you said that captures exactly what, for me, that's where I was. Right, I got to a point in my recovery. It was like I felt like I didn't need it anymore. Like it helped me bridge that gap from, because when they put me in the mental institution and then shipped me off to the rehab, around that time, I started getting healthier, started working out, and then I hit there at the rehab, and I started talking to people, got a sponsor. For a couple first sponsors I didn't really click with, but it was around that time where I was just like, I don't need this, right? And I made that conscious effort. I don't want it, don't need it, and I really took a risk, right?
Oh yeah.
I took a real risk, and I will add that, right? So I took a real risk. It worked out for me. So if you're listening, don't just run and get off your meds. It's not smart.
No.
For me, it worked out, but and I wouldn't even say it worked out. I still had to go through some trials and tribulations.
So you bring up something I want to share. So you guys know I'm an opiate addict, right? Well, I had a kidney stone for like 2 months. Okay,
Oh, yeah. I remember.
So
Did you keep it?
right? I didn't, but there's a
Figured it out.
here I am, severely, just like A+ opiate addict. I had to take pain medication to help with the pain for the kidney stone, and the way I did it was I let Dave know what was going on, my sponsor, and I had my wife dispense my medication for me, because look, there's things that are going to happen in our life where we might have to be in that position. I'm going to have knee surgery again pretty soon. There's a way to do this, okay? And it's not to try to take your own medication and keep it in the closet somewhere, And I could smell that shit out. If someone tried to hide it, I could smell them pills out. Literally, I'm serious.
Right. Here's 240 Norcos. You better make them last.
Right. So, I guess the point being, though, is that, and what I didn't do the right way, though, is when I was done taking, I said, I've been taking it for 2 months, right? I all of a sudden just freaked out and threw them all away at Frank's gas station.
Yeah.
In the garbage can. Right now, so
You didn't even tell me?
right, yeah, right. No, I did. And the thing is that
if I would have known that, I would have been digging through the trash.
it was such a mind screw taking a medication that took so much of my life away. But the reasons for taking it were different, right? And so there's a way to come off of that too. And luckily, my wife had stuck. She was smarter than me. She stuck.
Yes, she is.
3.
It's not hard to do, but
Right.
she is.
She stuck. She stuck.
That's a pretty low bar.
Right. She stuck 3 Norcos aside for me. And
Of course.
She
right.
knew better.
No, and so that I could taper, I could come off of them, and I did. Right. And I told I told my doctor, because he knew I was an addict for me. My doctors know everything about me.
Yeah.
Besides, I can't lie, because there's a big ass folder that's got a big red sticker on it, no narcotics. Right. So, but it was something that we have to address too, as being addicts, is that we might be in positions to where we have to take, Dave, you could share probably on that too, because I know you had surgery, and I remember me and you, matter of fact, I was taking them the same time you were taking them for your shoulder.
Yep.
No, but see, Dave.
Which shoulder? I had 2 of them done.
Right. See, but Dave, me being a severe opiate addict, I'm sure you dispense I could not do that. I couldn't have a bottle of pills and dispense them to myself. I'm not even going to fool myself. It scares me. Now, it might have been different for you, Dave, but my thing was freaking opiates, man. Mm-hmm. And so, there's things that we could probably do. Stay in the hospital longer after we have procedures, so we don't have to take medications home. We make sure that everyone around me knows that I'm taking it. You knew too, Frank. I told you, I'm taking these, I'm taking these pain pills, and they're making me feel terrible. I mean, but I'm taking them for the pain, and yet at the same time, I was scared shitless. But there is a way to do it. There is a way you have, because just, someone gets their arm chopped off, or they got to go in, there's just situations where that's when the group comes in.
So,
Well, that's what a shoulder replacement is. It cuts your arm off.
Well, right. So there you go.
And I had 2 of them done.
Yeah, I remember, Dave. It was really. I remember you were in a lot of pain. A lot of pain.
Brutal pain.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is that I put my reliance upon God, right? Knowing that He'll get me through it, right? And He did. I don't take anything.
Yeah, neither do I. I don't either.
Yeah, you fucking better not.
I want to touch on the depression thing real quick. And Frank, you had talked about coming off your meds. In my experience with a lot of guys that I've worked with, depression medication typically gets prescribed along with anti-anxiety medication or benzos. Right?
Man,
Oh,
so
Vince, he said the B word. Oh.
Often, like
Okay.
all the time,
Right.
they get on whatever antidepressant medication and a benzo. So now you either have an addict on that or you're creating a new addict.
You're right about that, because that wasn't my process this time, because I have already dealt with that addiction of Klonopin. I was on that for a decade, dude. And that one,
Crazy.
that was the worst addiction I've ever had, because that numbs you in such a way that when your receptors turn back on, it's constant panic attacks. Like, it was so weird.
It's the one that'll kill you too, Frank. Withdrawal
will.
from benzoids can actually kill you, just like alcohol.
And-
Opiates will make you feel like you want to die,
And,
but
and I'm not a doctor, and I fully understand
You're
that
not?
there are people that need medicine for clinical depression, right?
Yes.
Wait.
But with
you
addicts-
told me you were a doctor
Hey,
before this.
shh.
You
what
looked
the
at
hell,
that.
Eric? I know, what the hell, dude?
I was just trying to get my way.
What the hell?
I'll never take my pants off again.
I've
Dude,
worked
you're a
with
liar.
a lot of addicts. You got to take a look at what you're depressed about, because I've worked with a lot of addicts on medication that are depressed about situations in their life that they don't know how to recognize, don't know how to address, and don't know how to repair. In comes step work, right? So for and again, it's case by case, but a lot of times, once you learn how to identify, correct, your issues in your life, like, problem solved. The medication was unnecessary. That's keeping you from fixing your stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, because you're right. They do that. That Klonopin thing. But a big factor to that whole trip was just that because I was addicted to Klonopin for so long, and I guess there was some fear behind it, right? I didn't want to go down that dependent route again, because I always would talk myself into getting back onto Klonopin, dude. And then once that was in my system, a lot of the times I would just go get some meth, because I was no longer anxious anymore. Right, so I'm like, oh, now I need energy.
You're on the other side of the paradigm, right? You flipped.
a lot of people,
Right.
they'll stop taking the antidepressant meds altogether because now they're just popping Xanax every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not depressed anymore.
Yeah.
Good, but you keep that Xanax flowing. If
Well,
not, I'll go get it somewhere else.
Here's one of the issues too: is that I believe that mental health is so it's so inaccessible to some people, and it's been like this.
It is.
It is, and I think that's one of the issues. Is before you put someone into an area where it's focused on recovery, you have to deal with some underlying mental health issues.
Right.
And we're talking about if you don't have insurance, or you don't have money, or you're from a different part of town, you don't get that, and it's generational. I lost my dad when I was really young. Okay, I suffered PTSD at a young age, right? Well, so did my kids. So this carries on generation after generation after generation. And unless some of these issues are addressed, mental health, to where everyone has access to it, everyone.
Like, mental health is there's a stigma around it.
There is.
But mental health is no different than physical health or spiritual. It's a health of your body that needs to be addressed, no matter whether you're an addict or not.
Right.
And some people do that by faith, morals, whatever it is. Like, it's not, everybody has a mental health, whether it's good, bad, issues. It's not a bad thing to look at your mental health and address it daily.
But if you're like, let's say you're like 7 or 8 years old, and let's say you come from a family that's just absolutely, that it's hard, it's mental health then becomes, and if it don't address it, if it's not addressed, if it's not available to them, it's a perfect recipe for an addict.
So a kid has an easy access to the doctor. All he has to do is a few crazy things, take him to the doctor, bam, they got him on Ritalin right away.
Oh, right.
Okay.
So okay,
They got him on Ritalin right away.
Mhm.
Right? Well, what about the adults that aren't Ritalin babies? Okay? Those are the ones that have such a hard time getting to see a psychiatrist.
Absolutely.
Okay? You have to go to your primary care physician. They have to
Mental health.
mental health. They
Right.
have to determine if you're eligible to see a psychologist. Once you get to the psychologist, you got to go through a dozen treatments with them. I mean, here's 2 years later, and your mental health can be declining at such a rapid pace.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's costing you marriages, costing child custody, it's
Childhood.
jobs, living, everything, right?
I've seen that. I know.
I see it all the time.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. But who are we to judge? What medications they're taking.
And why does mental health have to always do with medications? Because there's a lot of mental health treatments where medication should not be a part of that mental health help, right? Because like you said, Ritalin, so I mean, but the thing is that it's not accessible to everyone, and it's not, first of all, the parent has to be responsible enough to take the child in and care enough to get them the help they need if they know there's an issue. Because and the same thing works with addicts. It's just a perfect recipe.
I want to touch on what Dave said. That's true, man. I've watched some people in recovery that have not addressed their mental health, and they just can't get past that barrier.
Right.
Man, I've watched.
They're
it
afraid
happen.
of the stigma.
Yeah.
They're afraid of what people are going to think of them.
Like here's an example. I'm doing everything that needs to be done, and they are.
Except
they don't realize that their mental health is burning everything down around them. Yes. And I'm doing everything you guys fucking suggest, and they get bitter about it naturally. But it's just like, with some of them recently that I've dealt with is like they're not willing to try to even take the steps. They're not willing to seek outside help. They think that just keeping clean, and in some of the cases that I've dealt with, not even keeping clean, and you think something's magically going to change. It's like, no, dude, you have to address your mental health, because if you do not do that, you're going to burn everything down around you. I've done it so much in my life.
That's what so many... Go ahead, bro.
We've had meetings with my youngest son's teachers and therapists at school and stuff, and he's been diagnosed with ADHD, and I am anti-medication. Mm-hmm. But period. So I had to take a serious look at my parenting. I'm still in the middle of this process, right? Like, he's a little wild. I'm not doing medication. So as a parent, what do I have to change, right? Because I'm a little loose with him. Yeah. I got to pay better attention at what I let him watch, how I talk to him, all of it. Because he's a reflection of what he learns, right? Like so... Like, I've got friends that started on the childhood medication that blew up into dope fiends.
Sure.
So that scares me. Like, my kid will not be on that. So what's the other solution? Is me. Mm-hmm. Right? What am I doing? What do I need to change? And it's difficult.
And sometimes you have to get the help from a mental health professional to tell you those things.
The professionals all said put him on meds. It's easier.
Right.
It would have been easier for me to not look at my own stuff and just put him on meds.
Right.
But my experience with other addicts that are friends of mine is that gives him such a huge chance at having a horrible future, because now he's at 8 years old to be addicted to his meds. But
that's huge. What you just said, man, that's accountability factor working in your life right now, because obviously he's his own person. He has his own fact. He's his own human being. But you recognizing the accountability of what you can do, right? Because that's a lot of children. I know me. I grew up because of what my parents did. I mean, my dad was hardcore. They did the best they could, yada, yada. But right there, taking that accountable approach, I think that's probably the best bet. Eventually, if, because I'm not a big component of putting I don't care if my kid's off the wall, dude. I'm not putting him on Ritalin, because when I used to take, that for fun, and I know what it does. And, but I'm also not a doctor.
Now, my grandson, he was 2.5 years old, and he watched his dad die in the apartment.
Right.
My son was shot. I wouldn't so there's a difference in psychologists and psychiatrists. Psychiatrists is about prescribing the medication. Yeah, psychologists like Shannon, I've taken my grandson now sees my grief therapist, and she, so, having access to be able to process what he saw and went through is the best chance that I can give him at having a normal life.
Yeah.
And there's no way I would let him see anyone that wants to put him on any medicine. It's already he's already got the odds stacked against him that one day this is gonna turn into something that's gonna be really bad for him. And so I've got to get all the resources I can, which I do. And I have a wonderful therapist that's going to be on your podcast here soon that works with grief and young children and PTSD and trauma and things of that nature that we carry with us through our life, and then it turns into an addiction later on because it wasn't addressed at a young age, right?
Absolutely.
So, mental health, changing the way we feel, spirituality. What are you doing for your recovery now?
Yeah, Nate.
Nathan.
Here it comes.
Well, he's looking at you.
This is what I wanted. This is what I truly want to know. Why is Eric's headphones standing 2 feet above the top of his head when everyone else is
Because it's a different set, bro.
Yeah, okay. All
Don't
right.
change the subject here, bud. You look great, Eric. Don't listen to him.
Thank you.
He just wanted to show you. He just wanted to show
You look beautiful.
Fuck you guys.
He grabbed the wrong headset. That's for the ones for the ego inflation.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So, okay. So, well, here, this is a good question, Dave.
You need
Yeah,
to post it?
release
Do you need to post it?
I don't, because it's all up here, bro.
You want
It's all up here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's
So,
all in mind.
yeah.
So is it disease.
So, for my recovery,
Yeah.
okay, one, is that I continue to rely on Jesus Christ to guide my life. My life has changed since the first day I came into recovery. Okay, I've grown. My recovery has grown, but my reality has also changed. Okay, I continue to work the step. I'm on my second set of steps right now. And yes, I am.
What's
You
the
are?
step?
Yeah, I am. Right now. I'm on step 3, and it's around the man that shot my son.
Okay.
Okay.
He led with Jesus because he knew we wouldn't attack him.
Right. What are you gonna do? Hey, you know what?
I thought the same thing,
right? Fucking A, dude. You know what? I got my shit dialed in, bro. If there was one thing I knew I was gonna say when I got here, I got Jesus. What you gonna do about it, right? No, but it's the absolute 100% truth, right? If I don't have a higher power, okay, and Jesus Christ is my higher power, right? Then I'm dependent upon me to get me through situations that I never even thought that I would be in, but before I came into recovery. I mean, and why are you smiling at me? Because this is the truth. You're smiling. Do you guys know something I don't, right?
Hey,
no,
bro.
No,
Whoa.
no, honestly. Seriously, though, yeah, I continue, and I'm not perfect at it. I'm not perfect at it.
Yeah.
I continue to make myself vulnerable to people around me, so that way that, people know if I'm not okay and the gravity of some of the things that I deal with, so prayer is really important.
When's the last time you called your sponsor?
Yeah.
I tried to call you today, but you didn't answer the phone.
was in church.
But that was regarding what time I was supposed to be here, which I was right. It was 1:00.
I told you 12.
Prior to that,
prior to that, I think we had talked about 5 days ago about the third step.
Okay.
About where was that my third step? Yeah,
Check
look
the
at
phone
right.
records,
Remember. Now I want you guys to remember. He said you guys remember his age, so don't get upset when he says, "Oh yeah, by the way," because that's one of the things that go. All right, but no, we did talk about, and before that, I met with Dave to go over the first step.
Okay.
how long ago?
What's that? 5-6 days maybe? No, I had an extra day already. Huh? No, we did.
5, 6, 9.
No, matter of fact,
Days
no,
ago or
the-
weeks ago?
Hey.
No. It wasn't too awfully long ago, Dave. Because I've got you told me what you want me to do. Yes, I need to read. I'm now I'm on the third step.
Are we studying? Stuttering?
No, I'm on the third step right now. Like I said, this has nothing to do with my drug or alcohol. Okay, let me back up.
Grab the fire hydrant.
Yeah, this is part of being sane in recovery.
Sure.
So, I continue to do the program, to work the steps. Look, like some people I know got into a mobile home and they traveled across the state and they did all 12 steps in one shot, right? It took me about 6 months to do a 4-step because there was a 4-step that came from my head, the brain, which was all the obvious stuff. And then there was the stuff that came out of my mouth that I thought everyone wanted to hear. And by the time, then finally I got down to what was in my heart. So it took me a little while longer, And I'm not saying that's why I'm balking at step 3 right now, because in some of these we balked, right? I'm just saying this is that, the reason that we're here is because you guys we're all still so close, man. And you guys have all been a big part of, and I think that's just as important as
you make it so hard to hit you.
Not really.
Like I said,
Not really.
You guys
Because we are so close, I'm going to ask you a question.
Spit it out. I've been waiting for it. You've held on to it all day, so go ahead and spit it out.
Yeah.
Tell me about this non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah. So So okay. It was 4 or 5 months ago. I went on a fishing trip.
Okay, for the record, this is the first time you're telling your sponsor.
Well, I told you about it, right?
But I'm not your sponsor.
So
Right. So what? So actually, right. So no, that's I bought a 6.
Your sponsee brother.
Let me clear it up. We're doing this out of love, bro.
Oh, that's fine.
Your
okay.
sponsee brother told me
right.
out of love.
Right.
Because
Okay.
he's concerned for you, and you did not tell me, and I want to know.
I did not tell you, right?
Why?
Because of this. We're all being honest here. So let me tell you, I bought a 6-pack of Heineken 0.0. Okay.
For Frank's gas station.
I did.
No, he doesn't even sell it. So me and Frank went around about this for a while, right? And I was kind of, you know what? I kind of knew. Frank found out from my son, so I didn't really tell Frank either. My friend, right? So actually, no, I had bought a 6-pack of 0.0, right? One of my things, right, is I don't like the effect of alcohol, okay? I know what alcohol do to me, right? I like the taste of beer, especially with certain foods, and that's being honest, okay? But I had bought a 6-pack of this 0.0, and I think I drank 3 of them. I didn't even finish the whole 6-pack. I mean, it was just... And I
fucking lightweight.
No, seriously, it didn't really matter, because it was the taste of it was the taste, and I did it.
I have never met anyone.
Right, I was the opposite.
Almost 65 years that drinks beer because they like the taste.
Oh, I love the taste of beer with Mexican food, and it's just But see, I don't like the effect of alcohol because if I get the alcohol buzz, I'm gonna get back in the bag, man. I know that. 0.0 is, it allows me to, I like the taste of beer. Do I like the taste of what do they call them? Look, we went to a wedding not too long ago. We had a lot of sobriety there, okay? Did you have a mock cocktail?
A mocktail?
Mocktail?
No.
No, you weren't even there.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
But let's be
I
clear.
go to places like that.
Okay, let's be clear.
I went up to the place, right, that they were serving the mocktails. They said, "How do you guys make these?" Mm-hmm. They showed me the ingredients there.
Right.
It's just sour stuff, like the sour syrup,
right,
that mimics what you're talking about.
Right.
So none of this process has to do with any kind of distilling or nothing like that.
Okay.
It's just syrups that are sugar with sour. So there's a huge difference between that said at the wedding that everybody was running and had a bunch of clean time and they were drinking, because basically it's just sour drinks. That's all that was. Yes, I hear what you're saying, how you're connecting it, but they're brewing the beer, right? Just like everything else. I don't know exactly the process. Tastes just like beer.
Yes.
That stuff tasted like shit. Did not taste like alcohol at all. It tasted like grapefruit juice. That's all it tasted like.
Okay, so let me say this. How many of you guys eat bread?
Oh, no!
Stop!
Now, are you guys gonna let me?
Carb free here,
Are
baby.
you guys gonna let me finish it or not? You eat bread?
We're keto, bro.
Okay, you eat bread?
I don't eat much of it. No, I eat a tortilla.
Frank, it's a simple yes, no question. I mean, do you
I'm
eat
keto,
bread?
bro.
All right.
Keto.
Okay.
That's how I get
Do you ever
fucking love bread.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, who doesn't
Right.
like bread, bro?
Struggle.
soy sauce? anything that's fermented has a small amount of alcohol in it. Okay. That's just
Except Heineken 0.0.
No.
Motherfucker, I eat brandy fried chicken, but I'm not fucking buying that shit off the liquor aisle.
Right.
So, hold on. Wait. Okay, 1 second here. So anyway, to finish this story, I had a couple Heineken 0.0s.
And what did we learn?
What we learned?
Are you gonna? Is it something you're participating in?
I got
now?
a case at my house right now. No, that's the thing. You know, it was. Hey, it was.
He said no, but he does.
No, I don't. And would I recommend it to? Would I recommend anyone that is a real alcoholic to drink that? No, absolutely not.
What about a fake alcoholic?
You know,
Imposters.
What is a fake alcoholic? You know,
Imposters.
You know what?
Guys that drink 0.0 Heineken.
You know, I mean, why would
Alcoholic wannabes.
Why would anyone even drink 0.0 if they wanted to get a buzz?
So the only reason why we bring it up, right, and why the concern was there is because personally, I've relapsed off of non-alcoholic beers with the same excuse, same exactly thing saying that you're saying right now. Word for word almost. I love the taste, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying when I said it, it wasn't true. Because the reality is the way the addiction works, right? It's no matter what, it's trying to get you closer to it, whatever rationale you're talking about, right? And the fact that your immediate environment shifted as far as even your son was like, what the fuck? Those just should have been the red flags. Like, okay, I'm making it's just the path it does. The path, because everything's a game of seconds and just twist trajectory, right? It alters the path, and I never knew that because that's what small permissions are called. Right. It inches you, and by the time you're so off course, and if you don't have people in your in life that love you. Because I'm not saying it's double zeros, but what you're flirting with is a whole different thing, where it becomes just innocent double zeros and then the perfect storm.
Well,
right?
this is the thing, right? I could walk into any liquor store. I'm over 21 and buy alcohol.
You're over 21?
I am, believe it or not. Yeah.
You don't look a day over 81.
I know, right? It's been a rough road. So, you know, that's and do I feel like I should change my sobriety date? No.
I don't think that.
You know,
but what I was getting at is it's the habitual mindset and what always gets an addict to that place of where their course is altered. Right? Just a simple fucking inch will send you off into the fucking distance without you realizing.
Just as much as going into a fit of anger or going into other things, correct?
That's why I have anger right here on my list.
Just as much as deception.
Mm-hmm. Right, so let me ask you.
No, let me.
Go ahead.
Don't try to railroad over this.
I'm not. Please, go ahead. Continue.
When did you pick up the 0.0? How many months ago did you say?
Oh, it was 5 months ago.
5 months. You haven't told your sponsor.
You want, and you know what? The honest.
That's the deception.
Okay,
that's a disease.
Dave,
that's
I really
playing
didn't.
on you.
I honestly really didn't think it was that.
Of course not.
It was
relying on your own thinking.
Right. So okay, I'm just giving the answer. So let me ask you guys this thing.
No,
okay,
no. You're asking questions. I asked you a question.
I gave you the answer.
No.
I really didn't think. I didn't think anything about it. I didn't honestly. There's no alcohol in it. We just got back from a wedding where everyone was drinking, and even though
this isn't answering the question.
Okay, so ask me another question because I answered the last one, brother.
You did?
Yeah, I said I didn't really think that with having zero alcohol in it.
Didn't think.
I didn't.
You didn't think that you should talk to your sponsor about this.
No.
But your son thought there's something wrong. Enough.
And
he loves you enough.
He told the person that he knows will listen and talk some sense into you. Because your son wasn't running around telling everybody that.
Right. So you want to. So this is.
He told the person that loves you and that you love. So that's the reality. I'm not trying to put your ass out in the wind. That's not
No,
what I'm doing.
hey, Frank, it's all love, and I understand. I understand, brother. I understand, especially for you, because you did relapse like that. You were
100%.
That's your experience, right? Does that mean that? But does that mean that I'm going to do it again, or that I've got? No,
You better not fucking do it again.
Right.
Listen to what my son told me, though, right? And I love you, Justin, so much. He goes, Dad, it could be triggering for me. I'm like, you work in a bar, Justin. Right? So no, but it was okay.
That is a valid point.
Right? After he said that, I thought about it. I'm like,
when you open your fridge, right? Because when I go home, that's a safe place, right?
Sure.
I know at my work where the beer is at. I know what the intended purpose is for. As soon as my fridge opens, so that's a different ballgame. If my wife started doing that, I'd be like, hell no, this is because maybe it's not wrong for me to do, but this is out of my fucking house.
Right. I brought it back from the fishing trip. I threw it in the garbage after what he told me.
Yeah.
At what point did you think, no, I'm not going to tell Dave about it?
As soon as he picked it up off the shelf.
There it is, right? So as soon as I picked it up off the shelf, I'm like,
please let me know. Are we all on your fourth step now?
Again? No. So that's. Any more questions on that?
You never answered that question.
What was it? What was the question?
It was very clear.
Right.
The problem is, instead of addressing a question or an issue, diverting it with humor. Okay? This is serious stuff.
Okay.
Okay? At what point did you think it wasn't necessary to talk to me about it?
I honestly don't have an answer to it, because I didn't really, just like when you said, out of 65 years, you don't know anyone that drinks beer for the taste. And I don't think that's that's just my thing. I did like the taste of beer. I did not like the taste I do not like the effect of alcohol. So I had 0.0, which, gave me the taste of the German beer.
So what I'm hearing is you just, from the gate, it didn't even register in your mind that you were doing something wrong.
Now, once you didn't think that you should call me and tell me?
It never in my mind did I think I was doing anything wrong. No, that's the answer to the question.
He asked me about it, and then he talked to you.
Oh, I know. He showed me the text.
Yeah.
He sent me the text that you guys were sending.
At that point, did you start thinking, well, maybe something not right here?
Well, he also told me that he had dined me out before, that you would already know. So
the funny thing is I accidentally
you
dined
better
you out.
step up right now, dude, and be honest, and not just.
Here, I'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
It was funny because he stops me in front of a.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Hold on to that story, because I want to get to that. Okay, when he told you that he told me, you still didn't think you should call me?
I absolutely knew that you'd bring it up to me. Yeah.
You already knew.
I already knew.
Good.
So I don't need to tell me already knows.
That's what I'm getting at. Is it's so easy for us,
Yeah.
especially as brothers. Okay, it's so easy to get off on laughing and having a good time. Getting down to the core of things. Okay, this is where iron sharpens iron. This is where brothers hold each other accountable. Okay, All right. At what point were you going to tell me without me having to ask?
Got awfully quiet in here, didn't it? Dave, I didn't think I did anything wrong. So again,
After you talked to Frank?
Yeah, because Frank had told me he had an experience with this.
Frank
I know
also?
someone in the other program that has 35 years plus.
We're not talking about
Okay,
that.
no,
We're
but I'm
talking
just
about
saying.
you.
No, I'm talking about me, right? So Frank has had an experience. Frank has had an experience where he
Now
relapsed.
we're talking about Frank.
No, we're talking about Frank had an experience where he relapsed behind it. I know someone, I think it's an individual choice, because I knew there was no alcohol in it, and it wasn't gonna change the way I felt. I drink it for the taste of it. And maybe in hindsight, I should have told you, Dave. Maybe I should have told you. So, Adam, maybe I should have told you.
It may not have changed the way you felt, but it changed the way you thought.
On that particular, yeah, it did. Mm-hmm. Now, what have I mean, so now what? So, okay, so now what?
So here's my experience with that.
Okay.
Because I'm a dope fiend.
Yes,
right?
you are.
So
Yeah.
if I smoke a joint, if I take a pill, if I inject anything into my body, if I inject a shot of water into my arm, right? Anything, my brain is going to tell me, this is not what you like. Go get what you like. Right? Non-alcoholic beer. This is not what you like. You like methamphetamine, to go get it now. As soon as, I just fucked myself because I put something in my body, even though I don't like it. My brain is like, we know what you like.
Those small permissions.
Go get it.
Right.
And now I'm at war.
So it leads with those thoughts of going, well, I like the taste, or, I have a stressed day. The day's hot. Those small permissions lead to it's just so subtle.
And there's no question what you've been going through since the loss of Jacob, has been top of the level of stress. Okay. All the things that you've been doing, and then getting back to work, and then getting injured, then getting COVID. It's like all these things are happening, right? There's got to be a reason why you felt like I just like the taste.
I like the taste. I will stand on. I like the taste of beer.
Well, I think.
But there's an inner spiritual malady, right? This is called alcoholism. It's called the inner spiritual malady, the ism of alcoholism, right? What are you doing to improve your spiritual conditioning on a daily?
I continue my relationship with Jesus Christ.
How?
I'm in prayer a lot. In the mornings, I'm in prayer. In the evenings, I'm in prayer, right? And anything that I don't feel that I take everything to the Lord. I take it all to Him. Now, I don't go to church every Sunday because I feel that church is another form of control. And I don't want to hear someone preach about how my son's going to be in hell because of decisions he made. That's why I do not go to church. And that's a whole other podcast maybe, right?
This is the last one you get.
No, but I, you know what? I continue to do the same things I did when I come up here and got clean and sober. And drinking that beer drinking the 0.0 had nothing to do with how I was feeling about Jacob or how I was feeling about, I like the taste of beer.
More will be revealed.
Right.
More will be revealed. So let's back off that a little bit because we're not getting anywhere. Definitely not. So what I want to tie into is, but we're kind of already talking about is spirituality piece, right? So I think the listeners would love to listen to a little bit of piece on the spirituality, not necessarily just, like your practices, right? So for me, like the spirituality goes like I listen to a lot of stuff in the morning, right? I listen to podcasts, I listen to audiobooks about spirituality, Buddhist books, different types of mastery of spirituality, like the 5 agreements and authors from that, and so and also my spiritual practices, my breathings that I do, pretty much for the most part every single day.
We hear that across town.
So, but I think it's important for and then also the gym, like that's super spiritual for me. I get really in tune with my spirit and my body and my mind when that happens, when I'm in there getting it. And by the time I leave, I'm more suitable to deal with the world, right? So I just wanted to open that up spiritually, what you guys think on that topic. And we're getting near towards the end, so I guess this will probably be the last topic that we touch on today.
Well, it was put to me a long time ago. I heard it from another man that said religion any religion is based on other people's experience with God. Spirituality is based on my walk with God. So for me, like all my spirituality revolves around my relationship with God.
That's a good one. Yeah, I could really, I'm starting to get used to that whole, the God concept. It used to be really hard for me, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one that I'm experiencing right now. It's showing up in my life. I haven't really named it or anything like that, but I definitely am getting more used to that concept. And
well, and when I say my relationship with God, obviously prayer and meditation, but my day-to-day life is the application of spiritual principles, and we get that from the program.
mm-hmm.
But not just talking about it, actually applying it to every aspect of my life, my interactions with people, business, my children, you know.
The key part for that for me is finding that compassion and empathy in my job, right? Because it's really tough, right? I have a lot of people from this community that are really, really awesome, and they're great. There's a lot of good people in this county. There really is. That being said, there are a few sore thumbs out there, right? We just, time and time again, they're just going through something when they come through the door, and they're really struggling themselves, and you can kind of feel that off of them. And they just hurt people, so they come through like a bat out of hell, and they want you to, and the things that I practice within my spirituality is understanding that person is just going through something. And that's really what it is, right? We had a recent experience with the customer that said she's not coming back, and I don't want to go too far into detail, but it come to find out that she had a really horrific thing happen to one of her daughters, I believe, miscarriages and stuff like that. And it's just like, oh wow, well that makes sense, right? So when you come from just the angle of me, my pride, my ego, this is the way it should be, you need to follow the rules of this establishment, and then understanding that, well, that person just went through a pretty hardcore, especially like that, right? Like grandbabies, that's hard. That's some hard stuff, right? And not taking into consideration, you obviously don't want to run around thinking everybody's going through a crisis and hurt and sad. But the reality is there are people that are showing up the best way they can, and unfortunately, it doesn't always turn out too great, right, on their end, and the way they treat you, and being in customer service, it's really hard. You really have to sharpen that tool of just like, okay, I need to keep my mind open and understand that there's some people going through some shit right now, and that's where that pride and ego, I really have to apply that compassion and empathy to it, because if I don't, then I'll feel real ugly after it, because then I find out those missing pieces, and I'm like, ugh, I wish I handled that differently.
Right.
So when I wish I would have handled things differently too, but the thing that happened with me at a very young age is having to go to church because my parents were taking me to church, and I was a kid that was sneaking out the bathroom window to go get loaded, and all that stuff. But anyways, when I got kicked out of church and having these, I call that my religious experience, right? And then I've had other religious experiences. Went to a Benny Hinn show and just watched that, absolute farce being sold to the public for monetary reasons. My father-in-law at the time had taken my wife and I to this show, and it was just absolute, farcity. It was just, anyways, and then I kept hearing this thing in God, in 12-step rooms, and I thought I was the Antichrist. I really wasn't. I was just someone that just didn't have a connection, right? When I got sober and I was at this place of absolute desperation, right? I finally hit my knees and said, God, help me. And my life changed, right? And so I wanted more of that brief moment of peace that I found there in that jail cell. and I go to the rooms of NA and AA, hear about higher power, God, and all this and that. It's like, well, you could just pick and choose your God, you know. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't pick and choose my Creator. You know, my Creator picked and chose me, right? And so I heard people say that it's, you know, the only requirement is loving and forgiving, right? It's like, okay, on whose requirements, right? Is it mine? Is it someone else's? But in reality, if I just relinquish control, right, and allow God to come into my life and work in my life, the miracles happen, right? So I'm no longer having to pick and choose. And if I'm the one that's, you know, trying to pick and choose some ultimate authority, isn't that making me the ultimate authority? If I'm the one picking and choosing and designing what this ultimate authority looks like, aren't I playing God? Absolutely, you know. And so I do study this big book, and I do, you know, go to church, and I do read the Bible and stuff like that. What I found is just my experience is a relationship with God is something that I find peace with, right? And I have to learn to be at peace with myself. If I can't be at peace with myself, I can't have a real relationship with you and me. You know, I have a relationship with my sponsor. I don't lie to my sponsor. I don't hold things back from my sponsor. Why? Because I don't feel I have to, right? And I don't do anything that I feel is, you know, that I need to hold it back from, you know. So I don't know. The whole God thing is really opened my eyes to a whole new world that I never saw, right? And I understand not going to church from your religious experience when your dad died from a heart attack in church. He was 9 years old, right? And not wanting to go to church, I wouldn't either. But is it really about what you want? Or is it about what God wants?
You know,
Are we trying to dictate the way what we want God, what we think God wants us to do? I can't do that, even though I try.
I think that for me, one of the most spiritual things that I've ever been part of is part of a group of grieving parents that have lost children. We connect on a level where we're there for each other, not for any notification, not for any, it's there because we've experienced something similar. And it's on a level that is just, it's beyond understanding unless you've been through it. And I believe that Jesus, my higher power, put me in this, he didn't take my son away for this reason, but that I have to continue to support these people that come in, especially people that have just lost their kids. Mm-hmm. You know, because they can't see anything. There's nothing they can't see any ray of hope. And I find that spiritual. So I also do a lot of that too. You guys know I'm part of a lot of different organizations, and it's not done because I'm looking for any kind of notoriety or anything. I'm doing it because we all need help, right? And so that's that's a very spiritual thing for me. It's a connection to the heart.
Yeah, that connection piece. Dave, you bring it up a lot with the opposite of addiction is connection, but I think that is for a lot of trouble, you know, that you're going through mentally. Connection really heals a lot of that stuff. You know, bringing up that whole your creator and you know, trying to manipulate your reality to fit kind of what your beliefs are at the moment. You know, I've been guilty of that plenty. I'm still I manipulate a lot of stuff. You know, and just kind of letting go, right? Is pretty hard. right? I'm getting way better at it, and I've gotten way better at it. So the fights between me and my wife are less and less, right? We had a fight the other day. It hasn't happened in a long time, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. I said one text that was stupid, and it wasn't even that bad. It wasn't "fuck you, bitch" or nothing like that. It's just like, and it was over petty stuff, because what was I doing? Working 70-hour week plus, and not having 6 hours of sleep, like consecutive 5 hours the night before. That shit wears on your mental health, right? And
I can't leave any time for you and your wife.
yeah, exactly. And then that was the frustration right there, right? We have a child that gets in the way of that physical connection that, and that's where I became selfish, and I said what I had to say, and since that kind of blowout, I'm just
or
like,
did you
okay.
have to say it?
No, I didn't have to say it.
Okay.
It could have gone unsaid, and she would have known either way. But that's where my that selfish manipulating situation, and it's right back to that lack of spirituality. When I'm not connected to my higher power and the people around me, I'm constantly trying to change the truth to fit how my ego and pride perceive the situation. And I really have to stay cognitive of that, because then I'll be sitting on a podcast trying to tell a bunch of shit, and I don't want to do that. I'm sitting in real life telling a bunch of shit, and I just don't want to do that. But especially on a podcast like this, where we're coming in and we're trying to be authentic and share some real recovery for some people out there that could be struggling. We don't make any money off this. We lose money doing this. But that's the whole point, is like, we're here and...
That's not the point.
No. Let me finish, Dave.
We're here to lose money.
Let me finish. The point is we're here to expand our spirituality and our connection in recovery, right? And in turn, hopefully somebody else can pick some of those gems up, and that's the whole point. That flow directive part for me, it equals out to, the FD in the whole F.D.Recovery is flow directive, right? Letting that higher power and that spirituality take hold in your life and really be a part of something like better than you, and that connection piece that we were talking about. Because if we don't, with me, I'm just not the same person, right? When I'm all ego and lying to myself, it's tough.
We're all selfish by nature as being an addict. It's all about us. It's about taking care of our own needs, no matter what the cost. So anything we do in our recovery should be opposite of that. And if we practice the steps and practice program long enough, it becomes It just becomes part of who I am.
Yeah, rebooting that, reconstructing the auto mode on our body, and our minds.
Absolutely.
So again, physical health, mental health,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual health. Mm-hmm. You talked about people being in a crisis, and you never know. But people that are not spiritually healthy do what's called catastrophizing, where every little life event is now a catastrophe. Mm-hmm. Right? At least in my experience, this is what I've learned, right? So the better my spiritual health, the more the little stuff I realize it doesn't matter. Right. And when the real catastrophes happen, we're able to walk through it, right? Mm-hmm. Knowing that God's in control of the outcome. I have footwork to do. Like, I can't be in the gym 5 days a week and not do spiritual work.
You also know
1 day a week, like, it's not going to work out.
We all have your back too.
Right.
You've got the people around you that love you, that are
right. Well, you're only going to have my back if you know what's going on with me, right?
That's true.
If I'm bullshitting you, then it's like,
it's going to be tough. Yeah.
And in order for me to let you know what's going on, my spiritual health has to be on point. Like, I have to be working. I can't take a day off from that. I can take a rest day from the gym. I can't take a day off spiritually because the sickness will creep back in. Like, my body will heal if I take a day off from the gym. Take a day off from the spiritual fitness. It's spiritual warfare, right? I'm not in a physical war. I need my body. I need rest. It's important. It's a spiritual war. I can't let up. You know,
because just when you let up, that's when that pressure comes out from the outside.
right.
And it's so I resonate with that on so many levels. It's you can't take a break from it, right? Because what happens for me is I just start acting different,
Right.
and I don't like acting out of character. I built myself up to this point where I'm like really relying on the spirituality and trying to invite God into my life, and it's really hard for me. Right, that's a tough one for me. I don't like talking about God, believing in God. It's not a fun experience for me. It's getting better, right?
It's not supposed to be fun at this point until you relinquish control.
Yeah,
Then
so
you
it's
gotta find some relief.
So, and in a lot of ways, I have, right? In my own ways, I'm my own rape.
You have.
And that's that, and that's where I want to go, right? Like I was on a phone call with you the other day, and I hadn't felt like I was gonna cry from a conversation in a long time, right? You know, because it's just but being spiritually connected like that, I'm just like, whoa,
At the heart.
I'm like, I'm not crying. You're crying, bitch.
That's what he said too. He sent me a text because I'm not crying, you're crying, bitch. It was the absolute. So, and this is how God works. It was the absolute most beautiful thing that anyone could have ever said to me, and I don't believe that Frank's capable of saying those kind of things. So I know it came from a higher source. I don't know if he told you.
That's what he said too.
That's what I told him too. It was absolute, and we're going to follow through with that, Frank. It's absolute. It was a way of God talking through Frank.
And it was weird too, because I will add this is I was taking a nap, woke up, and I was still in a daze, and I grabbed the phone and I started texting him. I don't know what the fuck came over me. It was super weird. And I'm just like, you know, because we went, you know, we were at a service, your son's service, and I'm like, you need to have a celebration of life for your son. It was completely hijacked by these gangbangers that were over there.
Yes.
And none of the family there had any healing or even any nothing. It was completely hijacked. And it just came over me. I was sitting on that. I said, you guys need to get the family together and mourn this and heal from this. Because the one place that you guys were supposed to do it when you're laying them to rest, it was almost like a mall shooting because somebody pulled out a gun. Yeah. And that's not fucking okay.
And everyone's scattered. And looking for the guy that was right behind us.
He was right there the whole time. So I only bring that up is because it was a spiritual experience when I woke up from the nap, and I'm just like, I don't know, like.
Yeah, like I said, I just knew it was more than Frank because Frank, you know, he's very limited in what he can. His little but it was the most beautiful thing. We actually had, we had a moment. We had a beautiful God moment. And, you know, sometimes God chooses the weirdest people to send a message to, right? You know, but
it's always the criminals.
Right. He said it, and it literally knocked. I mean, the idea was so beautiful and yet so simple, and yet I never would have thought about it in a million years. Right. And it's part of the healing process, and Frank was able to bring that to me. And I hope he doesn't think now I owe him one, because I don't. No.
You owe me a couple.
You know, it was something beautiful that it's going to help my whole family, and that's how this thing works. That's how this spiritual thing works.
And I take no credit because that's the reality. I was like, when I texted it, and I was just like, that wasn't in my head before that. I mean, I thought about a couple things because I thought about the service, right? And then the next day I took a nap and I woke up and I just started texting him that. Just like, you need to have a service, dude. And just with your family, the people that care, and don't tell any of these other idiots. I mean, God bless them. You know what I mean? I get it. You know, that's the only way they know how to respond in this reality.
Celebrate the life and victories of Jacob is what we need to do.
So this whole thing, life, you know, and control and all this stuff we try to hang on to, and I don't know. We're just trying to play God, right?
Yeah. 100%.
If I'm hanging on to something, it's because I feel I've got the power to do it, right? In reality, I don't. Eventually, I was sitting in the jail Wednesday doing an H&I meeting with this guy that, and there's a couple of Fed inmates in there, and this guy who just got sentenced to 36 to life for a DUI accident, right? They killed a family of 4 and one survivor in the car, but his transparency and his completely relinquishing control of his life to God, right, has opened up his message that is so powerful that it broke these guys. These 2 guys that have done a lot of years in the joint, they're facing a whole lot more. This one, gang member, been, run the block and all that stuff. He said, I'm at this point in my life, I can no longer hold the mask up, right? It's just too tiring. I can't try to portray someone that I'm really not. And he's tried to do this his whole life, try to make this image of who he is and all this stuff. And he just broke down crying. And this is, it was a meeting of the first night of this guy that just got approved to go to the jail, right? And he got the opportunity to see that happen in the jail. Beautiful. And it was like, holy cow. After we walked out, he goes, boy, that was a whole lot different than the APOD meeting, I mean, what it really came down to is relinquishing control. These 2 guys, right? Just complete relinquished control and saying, I can't do this anymore. I need help, right? And that's what it really comes down to, is being able to humble ourselves and say, I need help. And as grown men, we don't like doing that.
No, it's hard. We
don't like doing that. We got so much pride standing in our way, and we think we can handle it. And we can't. Mm-mm. We can't. We are responsible for the destruction of our lives. No one else destroys our lives. We destroy our own lives. 100%. It's because we're running life on self-will. And just getting to that point, being able to watch this happen with 2 guys that, actually 3 guys. A new guy that he was in the pod. He'd only been in there for a couple months. First time I've seen him in there, but he was just absolutely blown away. He said, I had no idea. Where my life is today is because of me, not because of someone else. Because I start thinking that I can run this thing, and I can't, right? And here's this one guy that's going away probably this week, getting on the bus, until he's 70-something years old, will he be eligible for parole. Yeah. Okay? Because of his own behaviors. But he's taking responsibility. He didn't fight this case. He didn't want to bring the rest of the family through, dragging them through court, fighting for a few extra years, right? He's like, I can't do it. So I think the whole key to this thing called life is humility. Yeah. And if you really work the steps and really get the one principle that just overpowers every other principle in that step is humility. Do all 12 of them. Oh. And until we learn to trust God, then we can clean house, and then we get to truly help others. And instead of having recovery-based service, we have. There's a difference between service-based recovery and recovery-based service, Yeah. But getting out there and helping another addict, helping another family member who's lost her kids, or getting out and helping some little old lady put her groceries in the back of her car, taking her shopping cart and putting it in the back at the store, stuff like that. But I want to thank you for coming back today.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me back.
I don't know if we'll ever have you back.
Eventually.
I'm sure I'll do something
until you finally admit those double zeros, then we'll have you back.
I love you guys. I love each and every one of you, man.
Hey, and I was just smiling at you earlier because you showed up dressed up all and made her get up.
Yeah, they're tied right now, 10-10.
Oh, really? So, I don't want you to tell me that. I don't even know. I just wanted to,
Shows you what kind of fan you really are.
Yeah, come on. All right, so let's wrap it up. I think that's a good ending. My name's Frank. This is F.D.Recovery.
And I'm Dave.
Merrick.
And I'm Nathan.
Nice. All right, peace.
Thank you for tuning in to F.D.Recovery. A reminder, be kind to yourself on this journey of recovery. Also, call your sponsor, get connected to local support groups, and for one day at a time, stay clean and sober.